Hello, Scorpio. Thank you so much for joining me again. All right, Scorp, what the hell is going on? So, you pulled some really opposing cards here, but when you look at Pray and you look at Miracle, I do like what happens out of this situation. Now, we'll start with Pray. So, this week, Scorpio, from Lay Vampire, you pulled Pray, Stalked, Invaded, and Watched. And then from Chakra Wisdom, you pulled Miracle. Now, the blessing with Pray says you have the ability to make a stand. You are strong, clever, and powerful. It is time to stand up to a bully or to one who wishes to blame you for their own bad behavior. You did not attract the circumstances you find yourself within. You have a great deal more power than they wish you to have. And then working with this card says, do not allow yourself to be prey for another's hunger. Do not refuse to help yourself or fall into patterns of victimhood. Take good advice, demand what is yours by rights, and be strong in the face of the one who would devour you. You cannot always win, but the greatest battle you face at present is the one within you that says, I give up. Nothing ever goes my way. It can and it will when you believe you are worth fighting for. And then Miracle. Your integrity basically is what's going to make this situation better. So even though you may have somebody really shitty around you that is trying to make you feel bad, it's not happening because you are tapping into your ability to have grace, intelligence, and integrity through this. Now, the very first quote for this says that integrity is what turns on the light. The inspiration says, do you let someone in or do you pretend not to see them? You cannot shut out pain without shutting out pleasure. Kindness exists to lend magic to integrity. The personal question says, can I be counted on? The key ideas are being a light, lighting the way for others, and coming miracles. So even though some of you may be facing a situation with somebody really shitty, there are miracles happening right behind it. All right, Scorpio, here we go. Here's the energy coming through. The Four of Wands, very nice, very nice. Not so much, I mean, for some of you, yeah, definitely it does have to do with celebrations. But, you know, this is the beginning of the stable foundation. You know, this is what you've been working toward. You're starting to see things come together, and now it's kind of like you're taking a break to celebrate how far you've come, more so than dealing with like weddings and things like that. But that is possible for some of you. But I do like seeing the Four of Wands there. I just don't like, you know, and it could just be that people are like trying to make you feel bad, even though, you know, you're doing good. But again, with miracle, like coming miracles, that shit's not going to stop you from continuing here. And in the past, the Ten of Cups, so happiness within the home, celebrating your happiness. I like that. But it is the past coming through, which I don't know why I feel like, well, you know, why couldn't that be future conditions, right? But it is emotional fulfillment, absolute emotional fulfillment. You know, domestic bliss and happiness. Oh, wow. So in the present, the King of Swords, this is definitely somebody else. Now, I worry, though, because of seeing Pray. But we shall see. We shall see. Now, for some of you, it may be happiness involving another person. It could have to do with somebody within the home. And it could definitely have to do with a relationship here. With the King of Swords, you're looking at air. But I worry about him because, you know, he has a tendency to show up when we're dealing with people that are like really difficult to deal with. You know, but then on the other hand, you know, the King of Swords isn't always a bad guy. It's just that, you know, he has a bad reputation for being the bad guy. But we shall see. Oh, shit. Oh, shit. The Lovers in future conditions. This person makes you really happy. And for some of you, it does have to do with a love situation. Now, for those of you who it doesn't, it's about major decisions. You know, temptation or the moral high ground. But, you know, I'm sorry, but with the Four of Wands and looking at the King of Swords and looking at the Ten of Cups, wow, that looks really good. It looks really good involving a person. Whoo, boy. All right. Yeah. Your best path to follow, strength. Having strength. Okay, so, I feel like, and this is only because of prey sitting here. For some of you, if you're in a relationship with somebody, there may be difficulty surrounding the relationship, and that's why strength is coming up, needing to have the strength and courage to face whatever challenges are coming up within a relationship. But coming out with the Four of Wands and the Lovers, I think you're going to be fine. But definitely, needing to have strength to go through something. Oh, in your environment now. The moon. So the moon for me, immediately when you're talking about Scorpio, it has to do with, not being sure and not having any clarity when it comes to your emotions. I worry about this. Now with the moon though, there may be some things that are coming to light here too, things that are coming to the surface that you're going to have to deal with. And it may have to do with, how you're feeling about a person. I think that this person, creates a lot of happiness for you, looking at the Ten of Cups. And you look good here with the Four of Wands, but when you come to the moon, I kind of worry here. Now, traditionally, the moon, fear, anxiety, confusion about the way that you're feeling, and it possibly having to do with another person. And then, not only that, but when you're looking at the moon too, here's the thing. When you have the moon show up, right? Like my image is driving down, the roads at night, especially in like wooded areas. And when you have the moon lighting your path, right, even if it's a full moon, you're still going to have to fucking use your brights, because you're not going to see that deer that's going to run out in front of you and smash the shit out of your car. And it's the same thing with the moon. The moon does not fully illuminate your path. You have to rely on your instincts and your intuition to continue on, or wander in somewhere aimlessly. That's why they say it's also about chasing illusions. Now, on the other hand, this may be a situation here with the Lovers. I've always said this too, where it could be a tricky love situation with a person. And there may be confusion on their side as to, how they feel about you as well. When it comes to air signs, they don't let emotions cloud their judgment. So, if they're feeling something strongly emotionally about somebody, it makes sense that the moon is showing up. And then on the other hand, these may be things that are coming to light, and that's the other part of the moon too. When you're looking at it in the reverse, for me anyway, I like it better in the reverse than I do in the upright, because, it is coming into the light. It's like the high priestess having the moon at your feet and having things fully illuminated here. But I think for some of you, it's just dealing with a person who may be really confused about how they feel about you. And I think for you, this may be somebody that brings you a lot of happiness. And it's almost like, there's a need here to, have this connection. And you may get there, and there may be some celebration here, but you're going to have some strength and some patience too, with them working out their own emotions as well as you working out your own. And it could be, again, a tricky love situation with somebody, Oh, your hopes and your fears, the Eight of Cups. Okay, so yeah, I feel like for some of you, if you've spent a lot of, time emotionally with, your thoughts surrounding a person, there may be a need here for you to walk away from it, or there may be a fear that you've spent so much emotional time with a person and it's just not fulfilling anymore, and you need to move away from it. I don't like the Eight of Cups there. And then there's also the Eight of Swords. Again, it's just a fear. It has the potential to manifest as long as you place your focus on that. But I think it has to do with, not having clarity with your emotions here. Are you chasing something that isn't real? I think is where, the worry is coming in at. And it may be because, this person isn't like truly expressing their own emotions. But again, you come out with the Lovers here. But there may be something that you need to move away from, whether it's you spend too much time in like, emotions that aren't real, you know? It kind of has the feeling like you may have spent too much time, thinking emotionally about, well, maybe this person doesn't want me. Maybe this isn't going to be fulfilling. Maybe this is going to be a bad thing. And maybe those are the feelings that you need to move away from here with the Eight of Cups, looking at it as a hope. But then there's also that fear, though, too. Oh, and then the outcome. Wow, the Queen of Pentacles. Now, I'm going to pull a clarifier on that. I feel like for a lot of you, you're starting to look at, situations from a more practical standpoint rather than, being so, emotional about it. I do think that this is a person that brings you a lot of happiness. I don't think that they're clear on how they feel about this situation. You may not be clear, but, you get to a point here where you start to think practically about it. And then, on the other hand, when you're looking at the Queen of Pentacles too, it definitely could have to do with another person coming through that may be, involved in this love situation. The Chariot. So yeah, this to me almost feels like a person that may be coming through to help you think a little bit practically. Now, I've seen this with, Scorpio before, where when the Queen of Pentacles shows up, this is a person to get excellent advice from. They're going to tell you like it is, but they're going to tell you it in a very practical way so that you're not like all over the place with your emotions and not really and having confusion about what's going to happen, And the Chariot, that's major, again, with the Lovers, right? And then the other thing, too, looking at these, you have to think practically about this situation. You can't let your emotions get out of control. You need to get control over where you're going here. The way that, you are thinking emotionally, what your desires are, getting all those opposing forces going in the right direction here so you know where you're going in a love situation. But with these, I wouldn't make any quick decisions on anything. Don't be quick to, decide to end a relationship or to start one. Not until you know exactly where it is you're going and exactly what it is that you want. I'm going to pull one more here. Oh, the Ace of Swords. That's good. So you get clarity. You do. You get clarity. And it may come from the assistance of another person, possibly. But I do like seeing the Ace of Swords attached to that because it is saying that there's clarity. There's clarity and you know exactly where you're headed here. You're not confused anymore. And this may have to do with you traveling too. And that may be where, there's like this tricky situation happening because there may be a need to like travel to see this person, right? But I would be careful about how much, time you spend here with the Eight of Cups, how much emotions you're investing into, like, fears, emotional fears, basically, between the two. Engagement. Your love life is ascending to a higher level of commitment. And then you have the Four of Wands sitting there. Wow. Wow. So for some of you, yeah, it's definitely going to have to do with a relationship here. And it's moving quickly too, looking at the Chariot here, but there's a little bit more clarity and a lot less confusion when it comes to this situation. And as far as engagement goes, right, it's definitely having to do with possibly getting engaged. The Four of Wands, like, it's there, but this is an important situation for some of you in a relationship, and you need to have strength moving forward here. You're either going to have somebody coming through that's going to give you some really practical advice, kick you in the ass and get yourself moving here, and moving with truth and understanding on where you're going, especially in terms of love. All right, Scorpio. So now when it comes to relationships, this could definitely have to do, especially with the lover showing up, being a romantic relationship, possibly. Now, on the other hand, this could have to do with a relationship with somebody in your home life as well. I mean, looking at the Ten of Cups and the Four of Wands. But I think that there's confusion about the feelings that are going on here with possibly this person that you're connected to. Like maybe they don't understand why they feel the way that they do about you, or you're not understanding where the emotions are coming from, but there's happiness surrounding this person. Now, on the other hand, again, this may be a difficult love situation for some of you. The Moon and the Lovers, it's always a tricky love situation when I see these two showing up. Things may not be clear just yet on how to move forward in a relationship, but ultimately you're looking at having a reason to celebrate. Now, it may be a difficult situation because there may be some shitty people that, are trying to make you or the other person feel bad about the union. Now, on the other hand, you may be preying on yourself here. Looking at the Eight of Cups as a hope and a fear, how much emotional time are you investing in some shit like, maybe this isn't going to work, maybe they're not going to feel the same way that I do, all that junk that's just a fear, and that is what you need to move away from. You can't hang on to the coulda, woulda, shouldas when it comes to the emotional stuff that's going on. I think that maybe some of you have invested too much time with that, and there's a need to move away, and it's calling for you to have strength in this situation. Now, where you're coming out at, I think for some of you, this may be a person coming through that's going to kick you in the ass and give you a little bit of wisdom here so that you understand what the hell your purpose is, and you get moving. And you get moving in a way where you have truth, clarity, and conviction and where you're going. Now, on the other hand, this could just be you thinking a little bit more practically about the situation instead of being so emotionally wrapped up in junk that may not be real. It may not be real. And you're spending too much time with it. And there's a need to move away from that. Now, on the other hand, with the Chariot coming out, some of you may be having to travel to see this person as well. Now, again, it could be just major decisions that you're having to make here. Or this has to do with a relationship with a person. But the Lovers coming out, the Four of Wands, and then looking at engagement for couples, this looks really good. I mean, there's going to be a reason to celebrate. You have miracles that are happening here, right? And then, there's a renewal happening with emotions. And it may be involving a person here. And then with those of you who are single, you may be really attracted to somebody. And there may be a lot of happiness surrounding them. But it may be, a confusing time on how to move forward with the situation. But, you're going to attract them by being attracted to life and being in the moment. And that's what's going to cause that attraction for that other person instead of you being so super focused on your emotions surrounding them. Instead of letting them see that, you need to let them see how you're enjoying life. But man, Scorpio, the love situation seems to be a reoccurring thing with you guys here. And I can understand where there may be some confusion when you're dealing with somebody like the King of Swords. It's not that these people don't have emotions, and yeah, for some of you, this could definitely have to do with an air sign or somebody with air in their chart, but typically this isn't somebody that, shows their emotions or reveals them, and that may be where the confusion is coming in. I just think that, you get clarity, you get understanding of where you're moving coming out of this. And I think that you're thinking a little bit more practically and you're being smart about it, especially with wisdom coming out, whether you're receiving it or somebody is, helping give it to you, or you're finding it from within. You're moving forward in a smart way. But I'm wondering what is going on with the love situation for some of you, because it seems to be a constant thing that's showing up here. But I definitely would suggest, for those of you who are looking at this in terms of a person, Your best path forward is to show them that you have a reason to enjoy life instead of being so focused on how you feel about them or worrying about how they feel about you.